Why are America's children being ranked last place in class? Coming up.
Shocking findings in latest school research. The effects of zero tolerance. And the sordid profession. Hundreds of thousands of college students are being forced to.
The OECD's latest skill figures put young Americans dead last. In an article titled Measuring America's Decline, the New Yorker notes a shocking slide in US education is no longer in question. In reading, the New York Times writes Hong Kong and Russia are top, while Finland's first at numeracy, the most highly valued skill in the workforce. America's not just lagging, but, quote, dead last, and by a long way. In literacy, it's beaten to last place by Italy. In problem solving, it's topped by every single advanced industrialized country. The New York Times writes, while Obama's, quote, nation building in Afghanistan, funding new schools and teachers, all across America, school budgets are being cut and teachers fired. War spending has more than doubled since 9/11, going to places like Afghanistan, Iraq, and now arming Al-Qaeda in Syria. Pentagon claims it takes just 5% of your tax. But economics professor Jürgen Brau discovered vast expenditures from military debt repayment to veterans affairs, nuclear weapons, and many, many other direct war costs that taxpayers are unknowingly paying for. Brau found an astonishing 68 cents of your every tax dollar now goes on foreign wars. The education of a new generation of Americans gets 5. Professor Peter Kuznick's co-author of The Untold History of the United States with Hollywood director Oliver Stone. Professor Kuznick joins us. It's great to see you. What happens in states that choose war over school spending?
The thing that threatens the United States more than terrorism, more than anything really, is the failure of our educational system. It's the worst of both worlds. They have the debt and they don't have the education. What's going to happen to the U.S. is what's happening already. The United States is declining. You know, our Untold History Project is dedicated to burying this myth of exceptionalism. We think it's noxious. Obnoxious and noxious, both. You know, it's dangerous for Americans to think that they're God's gift to humanity.
Yeah, what worries you about the direction America's schools are going in?
One of the things the United States was exceptional in a negative way is how these armed guards and metal detectors, and in some states they want to arm the teachers.
US education itself now, quote, militarized and criminalized. Razor wire, surveillance cameras, gun-toting security guards and militarized officers with police dogs roam the grounds. ABC reports they're breaking girls' arms unprovoked.
He went from 0 to 60 without any provocation. Had this been a regular person doing this, that person would have been criminally charged.
Another school security guard broke a girl's wrist, reports Fox News, for spilling some crumbs of a birthday cake, then arrested her. When her mother went to school to find what happened, she was arrested too. And just for taking this photo of the security guard, a classmate was arrested for good measure. Almost all US schools now have policies dubbed zero tolerance, reports USA Today, for behavior previously called childish or just normal. It's leading to the most bizarre criminal records. Girls arrested for using perfume. A 12-year-old girl who doodled "I love my friends Abby and Faith" on her desk was actually arrested by police and marched out the school in handcuffs. In a class when a little girl kissed a little boy on the cheek, authorities called in police and child welfare. Authorities admitted it was not sexual. School kids who have a bottle of Scope mouthwash or who flick a rubber band are expelled. A 7-year-old was arrested in the cafeteria for nibbling his Pop-Tart into the shape of a hill. Kids now even arrested for burping. And US school children now don't need to do anything wrong, notes investigative site StoryLeak, to be forced on mind-altering psychotropic drugs.
We were told that if we did not follow up with their evaluation of ADHD and take him to the pediatrician and get him on Ritalin, that Child Protective Services could charge us for educational and emotional neglect.
From the very first grade, Big Pharma teams up with authorities to screen school kids as mental patients. Prozac reps hold, quote, National Depression Screening Days to push their products in high school assemblies, which all students must attend, and hand out Prozac gifts. Pop a pill and everything will be all right, notes the Washington Times, was the message.
ADHD is a means of making paying patients out of normal individuals, and once they are given a prescription and put on medications that are virtually never discontinued, they have lifetime paying patients. That's what's behind the epidemic.
Screening questions are so generalized that every living being on the planet qualifies.
Do you feel sad, blue, unhappy, or down in the dumps? Sometimes.
I've had periods of great optimism and other periods of equally great pessimism. Yeah, that happens a little bit.
My heart beats faster than usual.
I feel sleepy, shortness of breath, gained weight,
Trembling hands. I have an idea that most of these are going to be sometimes.
Everyone has.
As in everybody. My score totaled 42. Bipolar disorder, moderate to severe symptoms.
I absolutely believe that the survey for Teen Screen was intentionally structured to flag as many children as possible as having a possible mental health problem.
We can't know how many American heroes never will be due to the drugs forced on them as children.
If you manifest any number of symptoms like easily distracted, blurting out an answer before you're asked, daydreaming and looking out the window, fidgeting at your desk, unable to sit still, that these are symptoms of this mental disorder called ADHD. What do you think about that?
That was me. All those things were me. Seriously, if this had been the way things were run back when I was growing up, I'll tell you, they would have had me so doped up, you guys never even would have heard of me.
Anthony Gucciardi is the editor of Story Leak. It's great to see you. What's going on?
This is what happens in a society that is now beyond Orwellian. We've had parents contact me and say, hey, my children were in the classroom and they were learning about history and they asked a simple question, maybe about a historical event, and they said, so you're going to have to go to the doctor because you have ADD or ADHD. Just being active, just having an active mind now is against the system. It's now considered a mental illness.
What happens when someone takes these drugs?
When I was very young, in the classroom, I was speaking to my peers and I was asking a lot of questions. They sent me to my doctor, and I filled out a form. I think it had 5 questions on it. The number one question was, who is your hero or who is your idol? And all of these weird Orwellian questions that had nothing to do with actual science at all. It was all your, opinion. And then the doctor came in and said, yeah, he likes to, he likes to listen to music and all this rock music and stuff. I think he probably has ADHD, and he prescribed me pills that I need to take every single day. And when I took them, I felt like a complete zombie. I could not even put sentences together. It was wrecking my brain entirely. And this is the same thing I hear, same story time and time again across the board, everyone that was put on them. This is turning people into literal zombies. I mean, you walk on the street in America these days, you can see it in their eyes. You can see the way they're cogitating things. They just don't understand what's going on.
Makers of Prozac are just one of the corporations that now control school teaching. This is a genuine curriculum and lesson plans that the Center for Commercial Free Public Education uncovered. First graders are taught to count with Domino's pizzas. Geography is taught as cities where Tootsie Rolls has factories. First graders are taught to read through Kmart, Pizza Hut, M&M's, Jell-O and Target logos. For biology class, students have to watch Exxon's video that the Valdez oil disaster was, quote, a great example of environmental protection. Kids spend a whole week of academic time learning the life cycle of a Nike sneaker. In return for giving Coke exclusive pouring rights, the Colorado Springs School District pledges to make their students drink, quote, at least 70,000 cases of Coke a year. The official nutrition curriculums created by McDonald's and fried potato chip manufacturers. Half of all schools in the US are forced to watch something called Channel 1 TV in class every day. A Johns Hopkins University study found an incredible 80% of the content was non-educational fillers and ads.
Save $5, text CLEAN to 467-467. Clean and clear and under control.
Josh Golin's Associate Director of the Campaign for a Commercial-Free Childhood, CCFC. It's great to see you. Why shouldn't corporations write the school curriculum?
Kids go to school with the expectation that they're in their best interest. If they're just seeing messages from McDonald's or Coca-Cola because they paid the most, that's the antithesis of education.
A few decades ago, top universities like Berkeley were completely free. Government cuts are pushing fees to impossible levels. A Stanford science degree cost $42,000. At a top German university, the same degree is $150. Forbes points out public funding keeps it around the same cost as in Kenya. German firms like Mercedes, Siemens and Porsche get to pick from thousands of top qualified engineers each year. Now in the US, an astonishing 400,000 high school graduates each year who want to go to college can't afford it. If they want a higher education, most teens must borrow astonishing amounts.
I'll definitely be over $100,000 in debt by the time I graduate, so I'll be paying that off for the rest of my life.
Robert Applebaum also expects to be paying back tuition fees for the rest of his life. His petition for the Student Loan Forgiveness Act garnered over 1 million signatures. Robert joins us. Thanks very much for coming on. So Congress just cut another $1 billion in school funding. How will this situation end?
An idiocracy. We will have a nation of dunces, of people who are completely uneducated because they can't afford to go to school. The figures are astronomical. People getting into $200,000, $400,000 worth of debt. We will only have the elite rich who are able to afford to go to college.
To pay their way, hundreds of thousands who do get to college are turning to prostitution. Students are now the major users of the many sites which hook up young girls with rich older men for sex. In return, sugar daddies, as they're known on the sites, fund part or all their college fees.
What do you think we ought to do now?
What do you think is a good idea?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts.
Yeah?
I'm a man after all.
Yeah.
So I know that it's not right. It says in the Bible it's not right to sell yourself for money. And times like what I'm going through right now, I feel like there's an exception.
The New York Times writes, American companies now rely on qualified foreigners from countries with more effective education systems. The US is actually now, quote, staking the nation's future on a steady stream of skill from abroad. American exceptionalism is regularly invoked by Barack Obama and other members of the establishment. The New York Times writes their speeches often claim the US workforce is, quote, the best in the world. It may do wonders for self-esteem. Times warns that for a long time that's just not been the truth. And the way America treats its younger generations, that it's rock bottom, seems hardly surprising. Seek truth from facts. This is the Truthseeker.